Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our monthly meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd. My name is Andrea Schott, the Council President and organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I've reserved the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. We will not have public speaking at tonight's meeting. Written comments were submitted to the city clerk and distributed to the council this afternoon, following our new procedure. We encourage you to reach out to your ward's representative or the council president at any time with concerns or questions. You could submit comments leading up to the next month's council meeting. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-594-6120. I'll repeat this number again, but be aware that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. The number to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer for today's meeting, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, the presiding officer tonight is the council president, myself, Andrea Schott, city staff, Elisa Tinty, city clerk, Corp Counsel Kevin Bryant, and Corp Counsel Daniel Gardenstein. Council members will be announced during our roll call in a few minutes. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family health. This meeting is now called to order at 7:34 p.m. on June 2nd, 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. May I please have roll call?
Alderman Ventura Morel.
Here.
Alderman Coop.
Here.
Alderman Childress.
Here.
Alderman Worthington. Alderman Solomon.
Here.
Alderman Davis.
Here.
Alderman O'Reilly.
I can hear you that good, at least.
Is Patrick O'Reilly on?
Here.
Alderman Shabbat. And Alderman Hirsch.
Present.
We have a quorum. Can I have a motion to dispense with the minutes of the previous meeting and approve same? Motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Steve Shabbat. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is adopted 9-0. Can I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the general bills? Motion by Tony Davis, second by Rennie Scott Childress. All in favor? You keep the thumbs up just so I could scroll through. Opposed? 0. We will not have public speaking tonight. Written comments were submitted and delivered by the city clerk. We received comments from Matthew Colangelo and Patrick Colancano. The public can find them on the meeting's agenda located on the city website. We now enter into claims and communications. Hearing no discussion, they will be on file in the clerk's office. Can I get a motion to The second reading of the general bills and pay same, motion by Rennie Scott Childress, second by Steve Shabbat. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is adopted 9-0. We now enter into the report of committees, starting with resolution number 96.
Resolution 96 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, adopting the standard work date for elected and appointed officials in the New York State retirement system.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution passed 9-0. Resolution 97, please.
Resolution 97 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing a budget transfer in the 2020 Parks and Recreation budget to pay for services to complete various parking areas of the OPRHP-funded Forsyth Park Grant Project, number C142737, in the amount of $22,434.32.
On the question? Alderman Coop?
Yes, Madam President, this is simply a transfer of a New York State grant to contracted services to perform the work at Forsyth Park. No financial impact to the city. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Resolution opposed. Resolution is passed 9-0. Moving to resolution 98, please.
Resolution 98 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing a budget transfer in the 2020 Parks and Recreation budget in the amount of $1,300 for facility improvements to the Roundout Neighborhood Center for replacement of the lower roof and HVAC units.
On the question, Alderman.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This is also a transfer from a CDBG reimbursement to contract services. No financial impact to the city, just a transfer of a grant to contracted services. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is passed 9-0. Moving to resolution number 99, please.
Resolution 99 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing a reduction in the general fund budget in the amount of $829,550.33 to cover shortfalls expected during the COVID-19 global pandemic as per the Economic Recovery Plan.
On the question, Alderman Scott Childress.
Thank you, Madam President. This is, of course, difficult for us to do. This is part of our response to the COVID crisis. We are having to make a lot of decisions with not very much information. We're still waiting for data from the state in terms of the kinds of aid that they'll be able to give us, whether they'll be able to give us what they promised us in the past, or whether there will be any new monies coming through the federal government. So we are having to operate in a difficult situation at the moment. Hopefully by the next time we meet all together, we'll have a much clearer picture of what kind of revenues we're bringing in terms of both our sales taxes and our property taxes, as well as these other sources of funding for the city. But we are going to do our level best to try to prevent the worst of the worst here, even though we are in some pretty dire circumstances. So as we look forward, we hope everybody will be cooperative, work with us, try to figure out solutions, and look for ways to help each other as we go through this crisis. So I will be voting in favor of this resolution.
Thank you. Anybody else in the question? Alderman Coop?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. This is part of the mayor's estimated economic impact plan. The low estimate, which is a shortage of $2,521,630. Phase one, which is immediate implementation. The partial makeup for this $2,521,630 are cost reductions of general spending, $671,278, overtime, $149,726, and snow and ice and some deferments of work on the rundown neighborhood center of $8,556, all of which totals the requested amount of $829,550. Other makeups to alleviating this cash shortage of $2.5 million relate to hiring freezes and perhaps some drawdown of the fund balance. But this is the immediate things we could do now, and I would be supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is passed 9-0. Moving to resolution number 100, please.
Resolution 100 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the City of Kingston to grant a temporary construction easement to New York State DOT and move a shed for the Worth Street Bridge project.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution 101, please.
Resolution 101 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing the City of Kingston to grant a temporary construction easement to New York State DOT for the Empire State Trail work.
On the question, Alderman Coop?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. This has a financial impact positive to the city of $650. And I should mention on the previous resolution, that was also favorable to the city of the amount of something like a little bit over $3,000. So I would be in favor of this. It's positive impact, small amount, but doesn't cost us anything. It's positive impact to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is passed, adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 102.
Resolution 102 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, appointing commissioners of deeds from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2022.
On the question? Hearing no debate, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Alderwoman Hirsch, I didn't get your vote. Are you in? Go ahead. Thank you. Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 103, please.
Resolution 103 of 2020. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of Kingston, New York, acknowledging receipt of parts 1, 2, and 3 of the full environmental assessment form for the open space plan and authorizing distribution of same to all involved agencies.
On the question, Alderman Ventura Morel, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, just to clarify that we are not voting on the open space plan or on the seeker determination. This is just a vote to acknowledge that we have received all the pertinent documents, and we will continue to assess to look into those documents, and the vote will be forthcoming on the upcoming Laws and Rules meeting. Thank you.
Alderman Davis.
Alderman Davis here. And is there going to be any other kind of communication regard to this this resolution besides on the city website, and so that all parties that might be involved in this or might obtain to or are being notified of this resolution and what we're going to be talking about and discussing?
Alderman Ventura Morel.
Yes, it will remain on the Laws and Rules agenda, but just to clarify, so we are just voting on the environmental review determination. We're not voting on whether to approve or not the open space plan yet. But when that happens, there will be it will be on the communications for that month.
Thank you.
And if there's anybody you need me to invite that you want to have, Jeffrey and I could talk about that. Anybody else on the question? Hearing no more discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Alderman Tollerman, I didn't get your vote. Thank you. Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 104, please.
Resolution 104 of 2020, an ordinance amending an ordinance in relation to the traffic on the public streets of the city of Kingston, New York, adding handicap parking on Spring Street.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. Moving to resolution number 105, please.
Resolution 105 of 2020, resolution of the City of Kingston Common Council issuing a negative declaration in connection with the Wilbur Avenue repaving project in the State Environmental Quality Review Act secret process pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617.
On the question? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Resolution is adopted 9-0. We now go to the second reading of local law number 3 and the vote.
Local Law 3 of 2020 of the City of Kingston, New York, authorizing an amendment to Local Law 1 of 2019, amending Section 332-3-A2, Landlord Registration Statement.
Any discussion on the question? Alderman Ventura Morel?
Yes, I was very happy to see this development when it came before Laws and Rules 2 months ago, I believe. And at the time, I thought it would make a big difference for people that were struggling. But now it seems to me like this is moot at best, because the period of the eviction moratorium that this was meant to cover is already addressed by the governor's updated eviction moratorium. So I communicated today with the director of the buildings department, and he said that it would in fact incur additional costs as well as a strain in personnel resources for his department. And I think at a time where we are asking departments to cut their costs as well as laying off people, so they're working with a smaller resource of personnel. I don't think we should do something that puts further strain if it doesn't actually make a difference to the people that need it. Those resources that are to be used for this extra gathering of information could be, for example, used for the Department of Building to confirm the accuracy of I'm forgetting the word again, of the vacancy survey that was done. So I think that would be a much better use of those resources as opposed to doing something that is redundant with a decision that the governor already covered in his executive order. Thank you, Madam President.
Alderman Scott Childress.
Yes, I appreciate Alderman Ventura Morel's point. However, I would disagree that it's now moot. Number one, the federal government operates different schedule, different process than the state governments, and this particular piece of legislation is geared toward what the federal government has done and may do again in the future. The second point is that while I understand that there would be some additional work for building safety, what we're talking about here is the potential for protecting people from losing their homes. This is a really important piece of legislation, I believe, because some of the folks in Kingston will definitely be affected by the federal moratorium on evictions. So we want to make sure that our most vulnerable residents have all the resources that they can possibly have. And in order to have those resources, they have to know whether or not the property they're living in is being supported, being funded by a loan or other assistance from the federal government. So I think that this is going to be important going forward. I believe, too, that Corporation Counsel is going to write the letter, will take care of producing the particular language and so forth, and that the strain on resources and building safety will be minimal, particularly because I believe most of the landlords who are in the registry have email addresses, which means there won't be cost for postage or stationary supplies and so forth. So in order to protect our most vulnerable, I will be in support of this legislation.
Alderman Ventura Morel, and then Alderman Hirsch, and then Alderman Shabbat.
Thank you, Madam President. If it did in fact protect, and if somebody could give me an example of how this would protect anyone from getting evicted, I would sway my vote. But at the moment, I'm not seeing how this would, besides creating more work for the Building Safety Department, how this would protect anyone, because the governor's executive order supersedes any law that we could pass locally, and he already covers that period of time that this is meant to address. Thank you.
Alderwoman Hirsch.
This is Alderwoman Hirsch. Thank you, President Schott. The fact of the matter is that the eviction moratorium that's currently in place up to August 20th does not cover every single person. Evictions can begin happening after June 20th if you were only protected until August 20th if you're unable to pay rent due to the pandemic. Other people can be evicted after June 20th and prior to August 20th. And anyone that would be covered by a federal mortgage and rent would then be protected in that window. So there is still a window that would protect tenants housed federally. Thank you.
Alderman Shabbat.
Thank you. Yeah, Jeffrey makes some good points. I mean, I've been kind of going back and forth with this in my mind. You know, the theory of it, I like the theory of it. I voted for it last time. And, you know, I really hadn't given any or much thought to the fact that it might be a difficult task getting all this work done, might be put a strain on something. But the bottom line, I don't think we can worry about that. We have to do what we think is right
We'll, as we always do, we'll find a way to do it if that's want to go with this. I think it's an opportunity, and yet there may be a little redundancy here. But I do like the idea that we're showing support for our residents here and gives them some options in a time where are getting to be more limited options. So after a lot of thought on this, I'll vote yes on this.
Alderwoman Hirsch?
Yes, this is Alderwoman Hirsch. Prior to this pandemic, mortgage information for a landlord was irrelevant information, so we thought. And we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what is going to happen, and if the moratorium really does end on August 20th, or what is going to happen in the future. And I think that if any information that we gather at this point that can protect tenants in the city that currently has a very severe housing shortage is just the right thing to do. And I just hope that everyone will vote yes with me. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question? Alderwoman Worthington? Rita, you're muted. Rita.
Sorry. I just wanted to, Rita Worthington here, just wanted to chime in my support on it. As Alderwoman Hirsch said, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We do know, however, that this pandemic, the housing crisis will be worse. I know that much. And I think that if this is a chance for us to protect our tenants, it's something that we should do. With regard to the cost and the resources for the building department, from what I understand, it's not that it would be minimal at best, unless I wrote. So, I think that's a small thing that they would have to deal with, concerned to how this housing crisis is surely going to blow up even more after this pandemic is over. So I'll be a yes on this.
You can only speak twice on the floor. Anyone else? Hearing no more discussion, I will call for the votes. All in favor, if you can keep your thumbs up, please. Opposed? Local law is adopted 9-0. That concludes our communications. Before we adjourn, I'm going to read a little statement here and then open it up to anybody else. I just want to start with read a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. from 1967. So I quote, "Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard. And what is it that America has failed to hear? It has failed to hear the plight of the African American poor has worsened over the last few years. It has failed to hear that the promises of freedom and justice have not been met. And it has failed to hear that large segments of white society are more concerned about tranquility and the status quo than about justice, equality, and humanity. And so in a real sense, our nation's summers of riots are caused by our nation's winters of delay. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these reoccurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention," end quote. These words were spoken in 1967, 53 years ago. As stunning as that number may feel, in reality, the number is 401. 401 years of oppression to our Black brothers and sisters in our country. George Floyd is not the only name, he is the most recent name. And it is my hope his name is the turning point to see actual change, not an appearance only change, but real change to achieve the equality we all deserve to share. And we can make the steps to get there, personally and from our elected offices. So I sit here virtually in front of you, asking you, my colleagues, to hold me accountable to do my part. I will do the same for you if you wish. And may all who have succumbed to racial violence in our country, George Floyd, Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin, Breonna Taylor, and the countless others over 401 years, rest in peace. Does anybody have anything that they would like to close the meeting with? Alderman Davis?
Yes, I'm going to follow up with you, Madam President. This is Alderman Tony Davis. And again, in recent light of the senseless killing of George Floyd and the many other years of acts of racism throughout the country, I hope as a community, as a nation, and as the people, we can bring about positive change and end the act of racism throughout America. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alderman Shabbat?
Thank you. Actually, I take this time to close in memory of a couple people. Actually, I'm cutting down the list. Every day I can't believe the amount of people I see in the paper. So I will cut it down. I'll just move some to next month. One is going to be very difficult, so I'll save that. I like to close in memory of Joe Rogier. I went to school with Joe. He was a corrections officer, recently deceased. We spent a lot of time together in Little League coaching and running the league. He was predeceased by his wife of many years. Leaves behind his current wife, son, and daughter, and Mary Polacco from Pankaki. I've known Mary quite a long time. She's a 30-year employee at Verizon. Married, her husband Jim works for the city. I think she was married 35 years to Jim. Leaves behind 2 daughters and several siblings. A good friend I've known since kindergarten, Sidney Hines, served in the U.S. Navy, worked for General Electric up in Schenectady for many years. A really, really nice guy. Sadly, leaves behind what I consider his young wife, Debbie, 2 sons and 4 grandchildren. We recently lost my cousin, 32 years old. In the midst of this pandemic, there's still also another epidemic going on. He lost his life to drug addiction, 32 years old. Great kid, good family. Sad to see him go. I'm gonna miss him. That's good, thank you.
I think we're all sorry for your loss, Steve. And if you need anything from us, we're here for you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Alderman Coop?
Yes, I would like to ask that we remember a very prominent member of our community. He was not a resident of Kingston, to my knowledge. I believe he resided in Hurley. But Frank Reese, the founder of Reese Insurance Company. I knew Frank when he was chairman of the board of the YMCA. He went on to be chairman of the trustees. He was on so many boards and just such a giving person. Unfortunately, passed away due to cancer. A real prominent member of our community. Thank you. And finally, I would also like to say there was a demonstration and a march on Saturday for the terrible murder in Minneapolis. just have to say I was really, really proud of the whole Kingston community, how beautifully it was conducted, dignity, no violence at all. And I hope let's hope that we can maintain this. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing nobody else, I will seek a motion to adjourn. Motion by Tony Davis, second by Rennie Scott. So we all in favor? Opposed? We hereby stand adjourned until the next regularly scheduled meeting on July 7th, 2020. I hope you all have a good night.
Love those who are dear to you and who are far.
This conference is no longer being recorded.